This evening, we are discussing the Catholic Church versus condoms. Father Professor Raphael Wanjohi is director at Human Life International, which is a Catholic affiliated organization that has put up a black banner with a human skeleton and the message, "Faithful condom user, 1 out of 12 condoms fail," a message that has caused a new dispute to erupt between the Catholic Church and the National AIDS Control Council. I am joined now by its director, Dr. Nduku, Kilonzo, in this discussion as well. You're both very welcome to the program. Dr. Kilonzo, let me start with you just to get some statistics on the war against HIV and AIDS in the country. The world is trying to move towards 0 new infections. How is Kenya faring? And when it comes to new infections, what's the age group?
We have about 1.6 million Kenyans living with HIV, and the 2014 report told us that we had about 101,000 new infections, of which 13,000 were transmissions of mother to child. About the remaining 88,000 were adult transmissions. Within that, a third, which was specifically 29%, was in the age groups between 15 and 24 years of age. But then also, when you look at other groups of populations, almost half, that is 44%, is among couples and people in married relationships. And then also across
discordant couples.
No, generally in couples. I mean, we have discordant couples who are living discordantly, but generally in couples in the general population, 44% of our new infections are accounted by couples. So you have the age categories, but then also other populations, and couples being one of the populations. And that's important because when you look at age, there are also couples who transverse the age category of below of 15 to 24. So that's why it's not an exact saying just this, but we've tried to desegregate so that we know where our intervention should be. And then again, across the country, we have places that have higher incidence. For instance, when you look at some of the counties that have a higher burden, have a higher numbers of new infections, Kisumu, Nyanza, vis-a-vis some other counties that have less numbers of new infections.
And what would you attribute to those higher infection rates in those counties to be based on?
I think there is very many different reasons. Obviously, one of them is when you have a higher prevalence, it increases the probability of more new infections, and we do have high HIV prevalence in some of those counties like Nairobi and so on. So I think to answer your question, we've done well in terms of reducing new infections. So when I say 13,000 from mother-to-child transmission, it is almost a 50% reduction from what was about 6 years ago. But we have
that per year or per what?
Yes, per year. That 13,000 was per year. But it is not sufficient because we still have 100,000 new infections, and that is really very many new infections per year.
It is, and it's shocking. And obviously the government has been heavily advocating for the use of condoms. Father, what evidence do you have to assert, as your banner suggested, that 1 out of 12 condoms fail? Is that based on science?
First of all, I'm the director of Human Life International, Kenya.
Lovely, thank you for that.
And then the second point is what we call the freedom of choice, that people have to have the freedom of choice, but not to be told you have only sort of condoms alone. Is there another way which they may use, say, I'm not for me, I'm going to use the life of the other chastity, I'm going to life of the other continence, and that is what the taking the banner means, that nobody has a choice in Kenya, even the Christian choice or saying we are going to live a life of chastity, then it must only be the condom itself. Okay. So that's very serious.
But what your banner says is actually a statistic. You say categorically that 1 out of 12 condoms fail. That is some sort of statistic or some sort of evidence. What evidence do you have of that?
If you look at the studies which were done, and this idea they found very much in a book called Contraceptive Technologies. And this was done very much in America. They even included Australia, Denmark, and even New Zealand. Then, out of 15, really, out of 15 you could see that that means there were 25,184. The studies, those who really used the condom which they put. And then out of 0.8, which was really like 4.64, the condom broke. And the others, we had about 3.4%. They partially pulled out or they really stripped it off. And when they all really now make a summary, you could see that 1 out of really 12 fails.
Is that a study that the government is familiar with? What are your own projections on the success of the use of a condom to prevent a sexually transmitted disease?
When condoms are properly used and consistently used, you get up to 98% protection. What Father is talking about is where condoms have not necessarily been properly used or consistently used. And I think the bigger issue here is twofold. The first one is we are talking about a failure rate rather than talking about a success rate. And the success rate, when you do
one out of 12,
failure rate. No, but 1 out of 12 is less than is about 7%, which means a 93% success rate. So I think you also need to look at the way in which we are presenting the statistic. But I think the other question that perhaps Father could help us address is a question of we do have and we do recognize that abstinence and being faithful are messages that we preach, and we will continue to preach them. However, we are also saying that we have a challenge, which is the fact that, one, not everyone will abstain or be faithful, and the second fact is, for instance, in Kenya we have about 400,000 discordant couples, meaning people who are married, one is HIV positive, one is HIV negative. Now, in that kind of circumstance, what do we or how do we address couples? Do we tell them not to have a sexual relationship or to divorce or to, you know, continue to have a relationship and infect each other? No. So I think it's recognizing that there is a higher success rate and significantly higher. 93% is the best for HIV prevention technologies we have.
Let's allow him to respond to that quickly. What do you tell such couples?
One of the other point, my main point is that at least now you are accepting that there is a choice, and the people have the choice of information to be told there is a failure rate. They have to be told that. It's important. You are saying that those who don't use the condoms, okay, they fail. My statistics are not those who are not instructed. Those who are the people who are instructed and well research conducted very well. It was not conducted here in the bush. It was even conducted among the most civilized countries, which you had mentioned, with all the tools required, and they came after that failure, 1 out of 12. Now, here let us have, and some of this research can be held in a book like this. It's published.
Sorry, I beg your pardon, Father, because we must bear in mind our time constraints. Would you answer her question? What do you tell discordant couples? Should they then not have sexual relations? Should they separate? Should they not live as man and wife? What do you tell them?
You educate the person to make a good choice. A personal choice, an educated, informed choice. Let them know that there is a possibility of catching this. But they are the one going the other to make. They choose to go ahead and do that, fine. But when you have given them information that you go on with this one, this what's going to be. So they may use the condom the way they want yet use, but you tell them there is a failure rate. Then you may abstain. And then that abstention requires us of counseling.
Unfortunately, we're out of time in this discussion, but if you would both keep it to a minute, you both claim to be advocating what is best for society. Is there no way in which church and state can sit together and come up on a joint strategy on this issue so that you do not send Kenyans mixed messages?
My one take to that is we have the Kenya Aid Strategic Framework, and that strategic framework included consultation with very many different groups, including churches, religious institutions. I think part of what was agreed is that what Father has just said, that there is choice, and that we look at all the options. We do abstinence, we do faithfulness. However, we also provide scientific and technical knowledge and information that is available.
Right. We're out of time. Father, I thank you for your time as well.
Welcome.
Thank you.